Have you ever wondered if illegal immigration is somehow connected to inflation and our unaffordable housing market? Well, Stephen Miran, a Federal Reserve Board member, explains to Charles Payne why Joe Biden's reckless and intentional surge of illegal immigration led to the worst housing affordability crisis in U.S. history.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Classic economists say we need immigration. Like, in other words, every time someone comes across the border, whether they're illegal or not, an angel gets its wing and another job is created somewhere.
Yeah.
I wish they would tell that to the folks who just announced all these layoffs, because it sounds counterintuitive, especially when a lot of unskilled folks come here. Can we start to rethink that? Because less immigration means maybe less demand for rents, apartments. That goes down. That's deflationary. And some are saying that helps the neutral rate go down.
I've said both of those things, yeah. But if you add more people into a relatively fixed supply of housing, you will drive rents higher. That will drive inflation higher. I believe a significant amount of the inflation that we experienced in recent years is because we threw millions of new people into the country without a sufficient expansion of the housing stock and a sufficient expansion of other forms of fixed capital. Right? The truth is that they need to live somewhere. And if they're living somewhere, then that's a place that other people in America are not living. And so that's a problem. And that was inflationary. And I think that the change in border policy, cutting down net migration to zero, potentially even negative because of the deportations that have been occurring, I think is very disinflationary, because it's the exact opposite of what occurred over the last few years.
And just to bring this home with some data points, rents absolutely exploded under Joe Biden. Zillow's own rent index shows prices jumping 30% in just a couple of years. That's the biggest rent surge ever recorded. Second, Moody's Analytics came out and called this the least affordable rental market in American history. Third, during the peak of all of this, in 2022 and 2023, shelter alone accounted for more than half of all inflation. That's just rent and housing. When rent spikes, inflation spikes. Folks, that's not politics, that's just math. And if those numbers don't convince you, consider this. In late 2024, rent inflation began to cool as border crossings dropped off a cliff. Even before Trump was sworn into office, the mere promise of deportations and the enforcement of our immigration laws caused people to begin to leave the country and stop entering the country. Stephen Miran is right. Illegal immigration didn't just stress our border. It drove up the cost of living for every American trying to pay rent. What do you think? Comment below. Is illegal immigration moral or immoral? I'm Brian Tuttimer with today's Faith Check News. Remember, think right to live free.